You're hiking deep in the Alaskan wilderness, surrounded by towering pines and endless snow. The fresh mountain air fills your lungs as you step carefully along a narrow trail. But then, you slip. One wrong step, a brutal fall. And just like that, you're alone, injured, and miles away from civilization. No phone signal, no help coming. The temperature is dropping fast, and the only thing standing between you and death is your will to survive. This is the story of Daniel Carter, an experienced hiker who found himself in a desperate battle against nature. How did he escape? What mistakes almost cost him his life? And most importantly, how can you survive if you ever find yourself in the same nightmare? Let's break it down. Daniel had planned this trip for months. A solo trek through Alaska's backcountry, just him, his gear, and the raw beauty of nature. He packed everything he thought he needed: a knife, a fire starter, a lightweight tent, and just enough food for 3 days. But what he didn't pack was an emergency beacon, a mistake that would almost cost him his life. The first day was incredible. Crisp air, breathtaking views, and the quiet solitude he craved. He followed a well-mapped trail, snapping photos and making mental notes for his blog. He had no idea that nature was about to test him in the most brutal way possible. On the second day, Daniel decided to take a shortcut. A steep ridge that would cut a few hours off his hike. It looked manageable, until his foot slipped on loose gravel. He lost balance. A split second of panic, and then he was tumbling. He crashed down the slope, hitting rocks, branches, and ice. When he finally came to a stop, he was 30 feet below the trail. His leg was broken, his backpack gone, and his phone smashed on impact, alone, in freezing temperatures with no way to call for help. The fight for survival begins. At first, panic took over. His heart pounded, his breath came in gasps. He screamed for help, but out here, in the vast Alaskan wilderness, there was no one to hear him. Then, his training kicked in. He needed to calm down, fast. Panicking would only waste energy, and right now every ounce of strength mattered. So he focused on what he did have: his knife, still strapped to his belt, a fire striker in his pocket, a thermal blanket he always kept in his jacket. It wasn't much, but it was enough, if he played his cards right. Night fell fast. The temperature plummeted below freezing. Daniel knew hypothermia was his biggest threat. No fire meant death. With shaking hands he gathered dry leaves and twigs, striking his fire starter again and again. It took 15 tries. But finally the spark caught. A small flame flickered to life. That fire was his lifeline. Without it he wouldn't survive the night. But fire wasn't his only problem. He hadn't eaten since morning. And his leg, now swelling badly, needed medical attention he couldn't get. He used his knife to cut strips from his jacket, wrapping them around his leg to create a crude splint. The pain was excruciating. But pain meant he was still alive. By the second day, dehydration was hitting hard. His lips cracked, his muscles ached, his mind felt foggy. He needed water, fast. Using his knife, he hacked through ice near a frozen stream, melting it over the fire. It tasted like salvation. Food was a different story. He had to act fast before weakness set in. He carved a makeshift spear and set a snare using vines and branches. Hours passed, then movement. A small rabbit caught in his trap. It was brutal, but out here you either eat or you die. By day 3, Daniel knew he couldn't wait for rescue. He had to move. But with a broken leg, every step was agony. Using a sturdy branch as a crutch, he forced himself forward. One step, then another. Every inch felt impossible. But giving up wasn't an option. By sunset, he heard something. A river. He followed the sound, knowing that most rivers lead to towns or roads. It took another full day, but just as his strength was about to give out, he saw it. A cabin in the distance, smoke rising from the chimney. Civilization. With the last of his strength, he stumbled toward the door and pounded his fist against the wood. The door swung open. A man stood there, eyes wide in shock. And just like that, Daniel Carter was saved. Daniel's story is a powerful reminder that nature doesn't forgive mistakes. Here are the key lessons that saved his life, and could save yours. Always carry an emergency beacon. If he had one, rescue teams would have found him within hours. Never take shortcuts in unfamiliar terrain. The easy way almost killed him. Fire is life. If he hadn't started that fire, he would have frozen to death on the first night. Water and food are everything. Dehydration and starvation can kill faster than you think. The will to survive is your greatest weapon. Giving up wasn't an option, so he kept moving, even when it felt impossible. So now I want to hear from you. What would you do if you were stranded in the wild? Do you think you'd survive? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if you want to be prepared for any situation, check out the survival gear in the description. Because in the end, the best way to survive is to always be ready. Stay safe, stay smart, and I'll see you in the next video.